we've come up with our list of the top 10 Dark Lords of Ravenloft, according to us.
Cool.
Okay, so in 10th place, we have Maligno from ODR.
Oh my gosh, who is Maligno?
Maligno is evil Pinocchio. Maligno wants all the children to come and play with him.
Ugh.
And as a result, he killed all the adults in his domain, except for the Geppetto lookalike who created him. And now he's enslaved his creator and is getting him to churn out more evil puppets, which are called, wait for it, carionettes.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's terrible. I love it.
So yeah, Maligno, maybe not the most impressive villain, but this guy is definitely fun for a one-off.
Flavorful.
And he is the subject of a wonderful adventure that I'd like to play with Claire one day, called The Created, in which the PCs get their souls swapped with carionettes, and you spend the adventure as a bunch of puppets.
I love that idea. And the name of that adventure, The Created, is so lame compared to what it actually is. But
The
yeah,
cover is an evil Jack-in-the-Box.
awesome. Fully awesome. I want to play this so bad.
So yeah, he's our 10th place. In 9th place, as former theatre people, we've got to give a shout out to Lemot Sidiam Just from Scaina. Scaina, as a domain, is one theatre. And Lemot Sidiam Just is a creatively frustrated playwright.
I love it.
And his whole deal is that he can force people onto the stage to act out his stories, and so the world will become an illusion around them as he creates drama for them. But because he's not a very good playwright, it's going to be terrible, melodramatic rubbish. And
yes!
if the characters on the play start acting in ways they're not meant to, he's going to get really annoyed with you if you start breaking genre.
I am all about this. Oh my god.
His other favourite trick is to let people believe that they've managed to escape his domain and then tell a story about how they managed to escape the stage, only to later on reveal that they've been stuck there the whole time.
Wow. I think I have a new favourite Ravenloft person. This is awesome. Alright, what's next?
So next up we have the House of Lament.
Ooh.
So we are both big fans of The Haunting of Hill House, the classic horror story, and the House of Lament is the haunted house in Ravenloft. It was created when a young woman got buried inside the house to act as a sort of guardian for it, in the same way that people would get buried in bridges to so that their spirit would protect the bridge.
I have never heard about this before you brought it up today.
No, that's a thing. It's a horrible thing. People, we're wonderful, aren't we? Anyway, so Mara was a young woman who got walled up inside the house, and all of the bandits who lived there, who walled her up in it, could hear her screaming inside the walls for months afterwards. And then they started hearing voices, and started disappearing, and messages in blood could be seen on the walls.
Awesome.
And in the end, the people who boarded her up, terrified, broke down the walls where they'd put her to find nothing there at all.
Sweet.
So this is a really evocative place. It's not a very traditional Dungeons & Dragons location. There's not a lot of fighting to do, but this is the direct inspiration for Death House in Curse of Strahd.
Oh, Death House.
You've got memories of Death House, don't you, Claire?
Yeah.
It's good for one adventure, probably, but it would be a fun adventure, running around in the House of Lament, trying to lay the curse to rest.
What's next?
In 7th place, we have Stezzn de Pilano in Gastria.
What's that all about?
So, de Pilano is like the love child of the Marquis de Sade and Dorian Gray.
Sweet.
So, his deal is that his soul has been trapped inside a painting.
Yep, classic.
And now he suffers from immense ennui. As he just can't be motivated to do anything or feel anything. Very Oscar Wilde.
But what makes him separate from, like, lame old Lord Soth?
So for him, he wants to reclaim that, and he's found that if he can get people to look at the painting once every couple of months, he can suck their souls out into the painting.
Oh my god.
And then use them to reinvigorate himself for one night. And he's got all these plans about what he'll do for his one night, but in the end, what he always does is just throws a giant orgy and wastes his time.
Okay.
And so he was the subject of an adventure back in 2nd edition in which the players got their souls sucked out to fuel one of his parties and then came back as revenants to try and get revenge on him.
Wow. Okay. I mean, does he still have friends to party with? My god, like, surely he would have eaten all his friends by now.
I think he's learnt that he can only eat on them one at a time.
Oh, okay.
Because he doesn't want to eat everybody in his domain, he waits until strangers or passers-by, player characters happen to be wandering by, and then he'll feed on them instead.
Right.
So, from here on, we get to our people who we feel are good for multiple adventures. These are the real strong ones. And in 6th place, we have Elena Faithhold.
Who's that?
Elena Faithhold is a paladin who really, really believes she's doing the right thing. She got a little bit carried away with purging evil, and if her god is a good god, surely everybody should be worshipping her god, not other gods who are not as good. And when her god stopped talking to her, clearly that's just a sign that her faith is being tested, right?
Oh.
And so then when she got to Ravenloft, she would use her paladin's ability to sense evil. After hanging out in the bad parts of town, she'd find that everyone in that area was evil, and so she would destroy the entire village to save them.
Oh my god. What a monster.
So Elena Faithhold is like the worst paladin ever, taken to that extreme. She is absolutely convinced that she is a good person doing what's necessary to save people. But she no longer has the ability to sense evil. She just senses strong emotion instead.
Oh, wow.
So as a result, she keeps on finding that the people surrounding her are secretly evil.
Oof.
As they start to believe in her cause. And this just reinforces to her that evil is everywhere. She's always got to be vigilant. You've got to keep an eye out. And meanwhile, the people who are getting oppressed by her, the more upset they get, the more she realizes that what she's doing is necessary.
Ooh.
But deep down inside, there is a little part of her that knows that she's a monster. She can hear these little voices, and she just keeps telling herself, this is just a test. I know I'm a good person. I know I'm doing the right thing. So that's Elena Faithhold.
Who have you got number 5?
In 5th place, we have the 3 hags in Tepest. Tepest is like a Black Forest Germanic domain where all those fairy tales and folk tales take place. And the 3 hags are the 3 witches who rule over it. So they were 3 sisters who would manipulate passers-by and then murder them and serve them up as food in their cauldron.
Damn.
Until a passerby seduced each of them in turn and turned them all on each other. When they realised what was going on, they murdered him and ate him too. But now they've all turned into hags, and they are stuck with each other.
Right.
They don't have the same sort of influence over their domain that some of the others do, but that concept of the 3 sisters who are constantly trying to hide, they can hide what they look like, they can appear like they're still human, but they can't hide what they look like from themselves and from each other. And their real curse is that they hate each other. I'm sure that everyone with a sibling has had times where they can't stand them at one point or another, but this is the most toxic sibling relationship ever, and they are stuck with each other for eternity.
Ooh.
And that's why the 3 hags are our 5th place villain.
I like the idea of their world sort of being fairy tale-ish. Anyway, who have you got for number 4?
In 4th place, we've got Gregor Zolnik from Vostokov. And if you can tell from the name, he's our Russian-themed villain. So Vorostikov is kind of like Siberia, which is like a horror story all in itself. And Gregor Zolnik is the hunter who can bring food to his village. Because none of the crops are growing, it's always winter. He found a wolf pelt, and he keeps it in a cave, and so he'll go out and put on his wolf pelt and take the form of a wolf. He is one of our werewolf Dark Lords, and then he will go hunting and bring back food. And he used the ability to bring back food to take control over the village. And when his family objected, he murdered his mother and cast out his sisters, who are Baba Yaga-style witches, who are plotting revenge against him. Of course, then all the games started drying up as well. And his entire position was based on the fact that he could bring in the meat for everyone. And so suddenly the people who disagreed with him started disappearing.
Ooh, oh dear.
And meat kept on appearing for the village.
Yikes.
With Gregor and his band of thugs who he granted the same secrets to as well. And eventually Gregor's wife realised that Gregor was sneaking out all the time, but she thought he was having an affair. So she took a lover as well, and one day when Gregor came back and found his wife in bed with another man, he murdered them both and found himself in Vorostikov as a Dark Lord.
I see we've got another werewolf in third position.
Well, in third place, he's not a werewolf, he's a wolf-were.
Oh no.
Oh no. So, if a werewolf is a man who can turn into a wolf-were is a wolf who can turn into a man. Harkon Lucas is an evil bard.
Huh.
Harkon Lucas is the big bad wolf, basically. He is a wolf-were who wants to be a person. And so his deal, he's a very sociable wolf-were. He wants to hang out with people. He wants everybody to form political organisations. He wants to become a great lord. Except no one really agrees with him. The wolf-weres don't even like being sociable. And so when they all shunned him, he killed them.
Oh.
And then he decided he wanted to hang out with humans, because humans are fascinating. They have social structures and orders and songs and music. And then he'd suggest how things should be run, and when they didn't like it, he killed them.
Oh.
And so Harkon Lucas is now Lord of Domain, which is also kind of a Germanic domain, except this one is much more cheerful sounding. In this one, everything is run by master singers. And there are singing competitions in the towns of Skeld and Harmonium to decide who should be the mayor of the town. And Harkon Lucas is the greatest singer of all. He's the leader of all the wolves. He's finally gotten everything that he wants. His domain is 2 little tiny villages right at the bottom of the core with no political importance whatsoever. He rules over the least important places in all of Ravenloft.
I sort of love him. I sort of want to throw Derwin up against him.
I love him because he's such a active character. He's got goals, there's things that he wants, he's always interacting with people and places. His other big curse is that he seems cursed to be betrayed by all of his children, all of whom hate him and want to destroy him.
Damn.
And also all of whom wind up becoming monsters just as great as he is before he manages to put them down. But he just wants to have a family. He just wants to have a country. He just wants everybody to do things in the best way, which is his way, and if you disagree, then he will kill you in a murderous rampage. And that's why we like Harkon Lucas.
Alright, what about number 2?
We had an argument here. Because I wanted this guy to be number 1.
No.
But
He is not gothic horror enough.
Claire made her arguments, and I agree with them.
My argument was he's not sexy.
Gothic horror is all about that sexy. Number 2 is Azalin the Lich.
Liches are not sexy.
Liches are not sexy. This guy looks like a withered corpse wearing a loincloth. That's like anti-sexy. Azalin is the most powerful Dark Lord in Ravenloft. There's a few other ones who are technically more powerful than him, but in terms of political power, magical power, knowledge of what's going on, Azalin is the most powerful.
Nerd.
Oh, he is. Azalin is a lich. He turned himself into a lich so that he could have ultimate arcane power. He rules over his people with an iron fist, with some very harsh rules about what can and can't happen. So Azalin is the most powerful Dark Lord in Ravenloft, maybe not the most physically powerful or even the most magically powerful, but in terms of overall political power and magical power and knowledge and influence, he is the most powerful. He's the most arrogant Dark Lord in Ravenloft too, which is really saying something. Azalin turned himself into a lich so that he could get ultimate magical power. That's the normal reason, isn't it? But he also views himself as a harsh but fair ruler. Though, emphasis on the harsh here, he had his own son put to death when his son tried to free some political prisoners.
Oh.
Which is a bit rough.
Yeah.
Azalin has not one, but 3 curses on him.
Oh.
Azalin is unable to ever learn any more magic. That's his official curse. And
oh, that's great.
It sucks, but it's kind of weak sauce, really.
Oh, that must be so frustrating.
So he originally...
You're a wizard and you're like, you do all this stuff to be the ultimate dead wizard and you can't even learn anything new. Oh.
His second curse is that he is constantly haunted by the ghost of the son that he killed.
Oh, ouch.
And he is convinced that he just didn't pay enough attention to the boy's upbringing. And if he were to get him back and force him to do things properly, then his son would follow in his footsteps and do as he's told, which has not worked out for him at all. Instead, it's like having that guilty conscience with you forever.
At the risk of being spoilery for like episode 9 of Star Wars, who was his wife? You get the reference. Who the heck would marry and procreate with Azalin?
I don't think he was a lich at the time.
Sure, but still. I'm sure even while alive he gave off big lich energy.
Actually, one of the fun facts about Azalin has clones of himself.
Oh, about being spoilersy about episode 9 of Star Wars.
And
really?
they're not all male clones either.
What? No. Oh, God. Oh, God, that's gross. Please tell me he didn't. Oh, no.
Didn't what?
Is that where his son came from?
No, that's not where his son came from.
Oh, thank God.
He had a son before he became a lich.
Okay. But as I said before, I'm sure even pre-lichifying, I'm pretty sure he would have given off big lich energy.
Yeah. Azalin's biggest curse, though, the real powerful one, is that Azalin is the only Dark Lord who understands that he is trapped in a place that we call Ravenloft, with a whole lot of Dark Lords who have curses and domains and are tortured by nebulous dark powers who are behind the scenes. He's the only one who knows this, and so every single major storyline event in Ravenloft is driven by Azalin trying to break out of his prison. And every single time, he almost manages it, but something goes wrong. The first time around, he actually successfully destroys the entire campaign world and sends them all back to their original homes.
And then does the director does just show up and is like, and scene. That would be the most amazing ending. Oh my God.
No, Azalin managed to create a time travel paradox to make Ravenloft never get created in the first place.
Oh, interesting.
And then stupid meddling PCs fix the time travel paradox, and Azalin gets rocketed right back into where he was in the first place.
Oh, that's amazing.
But he doesn't learn from it. Or rather, he does. Azalin says, I see where I went wrong the first time, and this time I won't go wrong. Every time. Not realizing that this is his real curse. So then Azalin tries to become a demi-lich, which is, despite the fact it's a demi-lich, is actually a more powerful sort of lich. And the process goes wrong, and he magically explodes himself and kills every single person in his biggest city. But in doing so, gets a transcendental view of the nature of reality as a disembodied spirit. and is still the Dark Lord as a disembodied spirit until a bunch of PCs manage to put his body together again, and at which point he realizes that he is doomed to always be trying to escape and not manage to escape successfully. So he comes up with a scheme to break the nature of Ravenloft, break the domains inside Ravenloft, so that all the Dark Lords can start running across the domain borders and messing with each other. The idea of, if I can't leave the toy box, I'm going to break the toy box. And this plot never got fully explored because the license for 3rd edition ran out. But the writer later on revealed what the plot was, and involved 13 Antichrist children from across Ravenloft being brought together for a special ritual. And also that he would have been unable to get his hands on the 13th one. Once again, the plot would have gone wrong at the last minute through things that were outside his control.
Damn.
So that's why I like Azalin. Not 1, not 2, but 3 curses. He's the most active Dark Lord. He's the one who interacts with the setting in the most drastic ways. He's a very fun character.
But he's not number 1.
Number 1 is painfully obvious to anybody who knows anything at all about Ravenloft, is Strahd von Zarovich. How much should we even say about Strahd? If you've played through Curse of Strahd, or the original Ravenloft adventure, or House of Strahd, its 2nd edition remake, or Expedition to Castle Ravenloft, its 3rd edition remake, or any of the other remakes or reinterpretations of it, you know who Strahd is.
If you plan to play any of that, maybe see you next fortnight, because it'll be spoilers from here on out.
Now, with this list of top Dark Lords, we didn't actually go through all the Dark Lords. There are a number of them where, when we were looking at the book, I turned the page and said to Claire, you're not allowed to know about this person, because they're involved in adventures that I'd love to run at some point. So, if you've got a favourite Dark Lord who wasn't on this list, maybe we're going to encounter them later on down the line. Or maybe we just thought they were lame. Let us know.
Specifically Castle Forlorn, that's the one you want to...
Castle Forlorn is the big one.
Yeah.
Which is a time travel ghost story. It looks like one of the most convoluted things to GM ever. Anyway, Strahd von Zarovich.
This is all from the book I Strahd, by the way, which is like what the best Ravenloft novel.
Yeah,
the highest quality one.
Yeah, it's the only one that got turned into an audiobook.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
So Strahd von Zarovich spent his youth defending his kingdom from invaders. When the wars were over, he was an old man, and he felt like he'd lost all of his youth on the battlefield. Then he met his brother. His brother hadn't had to go and fight in the war, and his brother was young and handsome and skilled and popular and not suffering from PTSD from all that fighting. And Strahd loved his brother so much, but also was so jealous of him. And then his brother came home with a peasant girl that he'd fallen in love with. And she was the most beautiful woman that Strahd had ever seen. And her name was Tatiana. So Strahd made a deal with death. In exchange for murdering his brother, Strahd would never age, and Tatiana would be all his. Well, he should have checked the fine print of that one, because Strahd murdered his brother on the wedding day, and then tried to seduce Tatiana, but she was repulsed by the monster that he'd become, and flung herself off the castle battlements. And Strahd lost it, and massacred every single one of the wedding guests in the castle.
Oh, damn.
And then he found himself as the first Dark Lord of Ravenloft. But then a generation later, Tatiana came back again, reincarnated.
What?
And this time, Strahd is able to talk to her a bit more carefully, get a bit closer to her, and turned her into a vampire before her father found out about it and killed her. And then a generation later, Tatiana came back again. And every generation, Tatiana is reborn. Strahd seeks her out. She's become the symbol of the youth that he's lost, that he wishes that he had. Every generation, he seeks her out, and every generation he is thwarted again.
In my mind, Tatiana is played by Kate Bush.
In your mind, everyone is played by Kate Bush.
No, specifically Tatiana.
And so the latest reincarnation of Tatiana is what Curse of Strahd, actually all the Ravenloft adventures about Strahd, are about. In fact, even that one Ravenloft adventure, which isn't a remake of the original Ravenloft, which is set during the time when Azalin managed to break Ravenloft and Strahd got to go home. He goes home to find that generations have passed and there's a new king and queen who go, honoured ancestor, great hero, because they don't know his backstory. And the queen looked just like... Yes, that's Tatiana again.
Oh my god.
Drama. And then Azalin shows up as well and they punch each other.
Oh my god, I need this.
It's a terrible adventure in terms of an adventure, but just as a story to read, it's so melodramatic.
I need this in my life.
It's really not great. You don't need it.
I mean, I just love Strahd.
So, Strahd is the most iconic one. He's where the entire Ravenloft campaign came from. He is the gothic hero with the backstory. He is the gothic villain with the back...
No, he's the gothic hero, damn it. God damn you. He is the hero. We will get into this more.
The fact that he's got an entire book which lays out the entire thing from his perspective, it's very unreliable narrator with a lot of revisionist history in it, but it gives you his point of view and makes him look like he's not so bad after all, and really helps to make him be a more understandable character. I heard a story recently about one of the original playtest games where one of the players, after finding Strahd's backstory out and getting to the final battle, refused to deliver the killing blow to win the adventure because they said, no, he used to be a great man. He deserves more than this. He can't just die like this.
Brother.
And the other players had to finish the job off without him.
Classic.
So yeah, Strahd is 100% the best. Probably not just the best Ravenloft character, but probably the best Dungeons and Dragons character of all time.
Absolutely.
Screw
a Sararak.
Who even is that guy?
Exactly, that guy ain't nothing.
Strahd is relatable, understandable, but completely monstrous, and is...
completely sexy.
and is easily the best Dark Lord in Ravenloft, as well as the best villain and the best character in Dungeons and Dragons. And he is the star of Curse of Strahd. So,
well,
Claire,
that was our top 10, so stay tuned for... what is this now? What are we going into here?
We're going into our thoughts on Curse of Strahd.
Okay, have you got another 3 hours?